Welcome back to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host, Café con Leche, for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online, that is, especially during these social distancing times. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, you can always find me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So our first guest was elected as the youngest New York City council member in 2013. He has been serving his community by enacting legislation to improve safety and quality of life for thousands of NYCHA residents. And now he's running for the 15th Congressional District and likely may become the first openly gay Latino in Congress. And joining us to discuss his candidacy, public housing, as well as his recovery from COVID-19. Please welcome council member of the 15th District, Ritchie Torres. Hello and welcome. And shall I open up by saying congratulations on all of your victorious wins.
I appreciate the kind words. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you for being here with us. And like I said, congratulations on winning the primary. Congratulations on beating COVID-19. Let's talk a little bit about that and the impact it's had on you, on your district, and on all of us, and what you've been able to learn from having experienced it firsthand.
Sure. So I'm fresh from a congressional run. I was running in the craziest possible race at the craziest possible moment against the backdrop of COVID-19. At one point, I contracted COVID-19 myself, which took me out of commission for about a month. So nothing's more destabilizing than to find yourself infected with a new disease in the midst of a fiercely contested congressional campaign. And the Bronx was the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak. Almost all the COVID-19 fatalities had at least one comorbidity. The most common among them were diabetes and hypertension. And the rates of higher hypertension and diabetes are much higher in the South Bronx than elsewhere in the city. And that's why our borough was the hardest hit.
Right. And so did you suffer from the severe symptoms? I mean, you're saying you were out of commission for a month. That sounds pretty extreme.
No, I actually was able to manage my symptoms without hospitalization. I have a history of asthma, so I was concerned about my breathing, but I had no trouble breathing. It was mostly chills, fever, symptoms that would resemble the flu.
Got it. And so I wanted to bring that up because NYCHA is it's one of my passion conversations, just because aside from yourself running legislation in that area or creating legislation for that, it just baffles me that the $88.1 billion budget that was just released on of course, relocating and the funds actually being allocated to NYCHA. I don't know why I'm stumbling on my words. I'm caught up in the fact that there was money allocated to NYCHA, but it was allocated to the recreation centers versus the development and the facelift and the assistance that NYCHA residents need within their living conditions. And I understand that you come from that background, so I'm just wondering why that's how the funds were allocated.
Well, a few points. Historically, the city council has made sweeping investments in public housing. Right? So over the last 7 years, we've invested billions to replace the worst roofs, the worst bricks, the worst boilers. So we prioritize essential infrastructure for city funding. It is true that in the latest budget, we redistributed $600 million from the NYPD's capital budget to NYCHA community centers. And the reason for doing so was to send a message that the police is not the answer to every problem, that we have to invest in our young people. We have to create more employment opportunities, more programming for our young people. And we need community centers that provide those opportunities, that provide those programs. So, the investment, the $600 million investment in community centers is meant to establish a new strategy for reducing violence in communities of color without over-criminalizing our young people. But keep in mind that public housing has $40 billion worth of capital needs, right? In order to replace every brick and every roof, every elevator and every boiler that needs replacement, you would have to invest $40 billion, which is a level of funding that only the federal government can provide. There's a limit to what can be done at the state and local level. We need federal reinvestment in public housing.
Okay, and so that being said, dealing with this situation and based on the circumstances that you're referencing, you know, there were a lot of COVID cases that came out of NYCHA residents, and a lot of that has to do with the living conditions. So how do you see yourself pursuing just revising these living standards and these circumstances?
It comes down to resources. We have to invest resources to fundamentally rehabilitate public housing. You know, for me, public housing can be reimagined as the greenest city in America. You know, I think of NYCHA as a city unto itself. It houses a population the size of Boston, nearly 700,000 New Yorkers. If NYCHA were a city, it would be the largest city of Black and Brown Americans in the United States. And instead of allowing public housing to remain a stigma, why not reinvent it as the greenest city in America? In addition to replacing the roofs and the bricks and the boilers and the elevators, we can have rooftop gardens. We can have reskinning. We can have community-based health centers. You know, public housing can be a platform on which to revitalize communities.
That's actually a wonderful idea. And do you think that this—
You know, murals and art, you know,
yes,
we should harness the imagination to reinvent public housing as the gold standard of sustainable, affordable housing in America.
And so, of course, the greening for breathing aspect of it, the art for visual pride and acknowledgement of culture. And then there's the cleanliness, which is another factor. And then, of course, even though you said there was monies invested into the boiler, I mean, I happen to have a few family members who have had to deal with coming in with their own portable stoves because there's no gas. It's just, I personally have a hard time understanding why people are living under these circumstances in the greatest city in the world.
It's a fair point, but keep in mind, you know, even if the city makes a $2 billion, $3 billion investment, which is substantial, it is a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of a $40 billion capital need. And so that capital need is so overwhelming that it requires investment in the federal government. Only the federal government can run a deficit, and only the federal government can provide NYCHA with an infusion of $40 billion to rebuild itself.
And so in running for Congress, what do you foresee yourself bringing to the table in making a difference?
My highest priority is going to be affordable housing in general and public housing in particular. I see public housing as the greatest safety net of deeply affordable housing in the United States. And we all benefit from public housing, regardless of whether we live there. The largest employers in public housing are the Department of Education, the MTA, the New York City Housing Authority itself. It's the essential workers who are risking their lives so that the rest of us can safely shelter in place. We all benefit from the housing stability that NYCHA gives to our most essential workers who are risking their lives for us every single day.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing the importance of our essential workers being
who are mostly women of color.
Thank you for mentioning that as well.
Many of them single mothers like mine. And that's gonna be my ultimate standard as an elected official. I want to wake up every morning and ask myself, am I doing right by the essential workers, by the powerful mothers of the South Bronx, many of whom live in public housing? And if the answer to that question is no, then I'm failing as a public servant.
Wonderful. That's lovely that you can live with the insight of having your mom be in your head and making your mom proud in your choices.
It's the mothers who keep us grounded.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today.
It was an honor to be here.
Thank you. All
Take
right,
care.
you guys. Oh, you too. Don't go anywhere though.
Okay.
All right. So once again, you guys, for more on New York City Council member Ritchie Torres and his candidacy for the 15th Congressional District, you can go to torres.nyc, and you can also follow him on Twitter at Ritchie Torres. Okay, so we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about Pregones, a new online content showcasing Latinx and international artists. Don't go anywhere.